Welcome to Season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In Season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I was joined by Jo Sellick. Jo is the founder of Sellick Partnership, a business with just over 100 staff that he launched by himself in 2002 in Manchester. Over the last 20 years, 21 years now, Jo has been at the helm. His name's on the door. He's been driving the business forward, and they've grown exponentially in that period of time. Last year, they turned over £95 million across 105 people. In 2019, just before the pandemic, they secured a 70% investment or acquisition by a French company, a facilities management and recruitment business, and then went straight into a pandemic after. However, they've grown exponentially. They've doubled revenue since then. And in this episode, I spent time understanding Jo's mindset, breaking down the barriers of what he went through in the early days and the journey in between from the start to now. One of the most infectious, natural, charismatic recruitment founders I've ever met. He gives away some really practical advice, hugely inspirational conversation, and talks about the impact it's had on him as a person, his life, to go from broke, starting his own firm, to realizing, wealth creation with an exit and everything in between. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm confident you will. Without further ado, Jo, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Sean, thanks for the invitation.
Pleasure.
Really pleased to be here.
Great. We've already been talking pre-show. We've been chewing the fat about Manchester United and Manchester City. We also agreed we figured out we support the opposite sides of the city.
So it should be an interesting conversation.
It should be. And you're in Liverpool today. Is that one of your offices?
Yeah. So drove over this morning. Went to the match last night. United beat West Ham 3-1.
Yeah.
So we're in good shape. Drove over to Liverpool this morning. So we're in the Plaza building in Liverpool on the 14th floor. So got a really good view of the Mersey, and should have a good day.
Love it. Well, Jo, I've done you a brief introduction, but I can never do it justice, right?
Yeah.
Do us a favor. Give us the bird's eye view of you and the business today. I don't want the story. We'll go into the story in a minute. So I'm talking locations, headcount, what you do right now.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So we have 5 offices across the UK. So I'll list those for you. So head office in Manchester.
Yeah.
Other offices in Liverpool, Newcastle, Derby, and Leeds. We have 2 little satellite operations in Stoke and London. Currently about 100 employees. I think 105, 106.
Great.
Into some big markets: finance market, legal market, actuarial market.
Yeah.
Established a business 20 years ago, and still living it. Recruitment is the best business to be in. If I didn't do recruitment, I don't know what the hell I would do. But I love it. Day to day, no day the same. Really fast moving, all that kind of stuff, which people have spoken to you about over the years. But it's the thing for me, Sean, is recruitment as an industry. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Doesn't get talked about. For the size of it, I think it's 35 billion, 37 billion in the UK. It's enormous.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't get spoken about. And the thing about recruitment, we change people's lives. You put someone into a new role, into a new position. They meet their future wife or husband. They have 3 kids, buy a nice house, have a lovely life together, and we've made that change in their lives. So it's really powerful.
I agree.
Really
I
powerful.
agree. Well, one thing, I mean, look, I've worked in recruitment for 7 years myself, and I've launched this business. And I only work with recruiters, right? So I
Yeah.
speak to recruiters. I understand the industry inside and out, and I completely agree. The question, interestingly, what you mentioned there is what's different to a lot of the people I've spoken to is you've got 5 offices, but you're heavily northern based, right?
Yeah.
Which, let's go for that. I love a bit of that. What's driven you not to go and do what everyone else does and have a big office in London? Why do you say no?
We gave it a go. We opened up an office in London maybe about 5-6 years ago. Did it for 12 months. It wasn't working. We pulled out.
Right.
We couldn't find the right people. It was really expensive. The markets were so fragmented, so competitive. Not like in our current offices where we are. They're all super competitive and super fragmented. But I think that what we did do, we took a commercial decision. We gave it a really good go, but it just wasn't working. So it's quite ballsy for us to go into a market, but even more ballsy to come back out of it. And
yeah,
so
when to quit your losses. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it won't stop us in the future. It's like any of these things, Sean. We took some really good learns from it and some good lessons.
Great. Let's go back to the start then. So,
Yeah.
what's your background? Did you grow up in Manchester or was it?
So I was born in Leicestershire,
Right.
and then my parents moved to Lincolnshire. So I went to school in Lincolnshire. Loved school. Not very bright academically, scraped a few O levels and A levels, that kind of thing. Loved my sport. That was my real thing. So football, cricket, rugby, tiddlywinks, anything, badminton, table tennis, literally anything. But was half decent at sport, and then then went to university. My interesting background. My dad stood for Parliament.
Right.
On 5 occasions. So I'm really into my politics. But unfortunately, he got beat. He stood as a Liberal.
Right.
Where I grew up was a really Tory conservative area. But he would have made a really good MP. But unfortunately, didn't make it. My mum was a probation officer.
Right.
I've got a brother that lives in London, and my sister lives in Australia. So not kind of normal childhood.
Did you end up in Manchester with uni then?
No, so then went to went to the northeast, went to Newcastle.
Right.
So lived in Newcastle, then to Sheffield. So did a politics degree in Newcastle. Then tried to do an MA in Sheffield. Ran out of money, but as a United fan, always wanted to live in Manchester. Yeah. Moved to Manchester in the early 90s and have been there ever since.
Good time to be in Manchester, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first job was with an organisation called Multiple Listing Services that sold advertising on the back of supermarket till rolls. So back in the day, when you did your big shop on a Friday, you had 4 non-competing advertisers on the back of the till roll. And the business model was that you take your voucher to either McDonald's or the dry cleaners.
I remember it, yeah.
Or I don't know, Specsavers. And the model being that the owner of the business would know how many concessions they gave away over the month. So really good idea. Taught myself to sell. Went for an interview in Salford on a Monday morning. Left in the Monday afternoon with a car and a sales pack. And my area was Sheffield, so I was selling to Sainsbury's and Morrison's supermarkets in Sheffield.
You're driving over the Snakes Pass every day.
Exactly. Yeah, wow. Exactly. Yeah. So I know that journey really well. Killed myself a load of times trying to overtake lorries when I was late. But managed to.
Glossop's a killer, though, isn't it?
Oh, mate, yeah, it was horrendous, but a decent journey though in the summer. Not so good in the winter.
People listening around the world are thinking, what are they on about? But anyway, we'll get through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay. So taught myself to sell and then got into recruitment.
Right. And what was the firm you joined at that time?
So a national firm called Baynott & Clark, who are now owned by Adecco. Yeah. So got a job in the Manchester office, did 2.5-3 years there, then got moved to Leeds to run their Leeds office. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
You can just tell by your energy, like you would have been a natural in recruitment, right? You would have been someone who just took to it.
Yeah, you know what? When it's nice of you to say that, thank you. But when I joined Bain & Clark and Manchester, within 2 or 3 hours, I knew this was the industry for me. You know, great people, fun environment, you could make money. It's just the best.
Yeah.
You know, just so much. But the thing is
about what were you recruiting?
So accountants.
Right.
So within the financial and accounts market. But very quickly knew that if you grafted, if you worked hard, you could have a real life. And the thing about recruitment is this analogy that it's a bit like a sausage machine. The more you put in the front end, the more you get out the back end.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's so true.
But not everyone takes to it as quickly and as easily as others. I know I started in Australia, in Melbourne. I was a school teacher. I went traveling, landed in Melbourne, got a job at Randstad in the big Rialto Towers. Yeah. And I remember I could just naturally talk, right? So I'm sat on a phone and this Aussie guy's opposite me. I remember Nick King, and he just kept laughing. And I was like, I'm just talking. And he goes, I said, what are you laughing at? He goes, he just said, mate, you don't know what you're saying right now. He's like, but you're going to be great. He's like, he just knew straight away that I could talk, I could communicate, I could open conversation with people. And not everyone finds that, but I imagine you would have been that type of guy where you didn't even know what you were talking about early on, but it came quite comfortable to open conversation and
yeah. And I think the thing is that when you're having a conversation and you're in a challenging conversation, it's having stuff to say and keeping it going and doing all the listening bit and not selling too early and all that side of it.
How did your career progress? Were you a good high performer early on?
Yeah, so did okay to begin with. I think if you compare males with females in recruitment, males take a little bit longer to get it. It took me maybe 6 to 9 months for the penny to really drop, to really understand what I was doing and that side of it. For me, females tend to pick it up a bit quicker. So got to grips with it, loved it. They saw something in me in Manchester. They needed a manager in Leeds, so I was really happy to relocate to Leeds for my career. So did about 2.5, 3 years in Manchester, then the similar amount in Leeds. Thing about Bain & Clark, fantastic culture, really, really superb training. You know, within 2 or 3 days of me joining, I was thrown right into the deep end. It was a real sink or swim type environment, but I joined. The best thing for me is that I joined a really high achieving team.
I bet. So
you needed to succeed, and for the first 3 months, and I'm sure other listeners might have had this. The first 3 months going into the office, I felt physically sick because I didn't want to make a mistake. Because the team was so high achieving. But I got through that, and then came out the other side, and never really looked back.
And when did you know you wanted to be your own boss? When did you know you were going to start your own firm?
Yeah, do you know, I get that asked quite a bit. When I was a kid, my dad did a million things, as well as wanted to be an MP. He set up a printing business. He was an MD of a polythene factory. He had a wine company, all sorts of stuff. He was a sort of an entrepreneur, had a bit of money, then lost it, had a bit of money, then lost it, that sort of story. Yeah. But when I was sort of, 10, 11, 12, I always knew that I was going to have to get a job, obviously, but I always kind of knew something ticking in the back of my brain and my body that I would somewhere in my life, I would do my own thing. And the great thing about after 6, 7 years with Bain & Clark, and then 1 year with a small provincial business in Leeds, I went for it and resigned my job in 1999 with a view of setting up Sellick in 2000. I just had the confidence after 6, 7 years, I could do it for myself. Why wouldn't I give it a shot? Because if I failed, I'd always get a job back in recruitment.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have much to lose.
I think that was probably a lot of what I was going down the line of when I was planning my business was I've already proven I can do it for someone else. So
yeah.
I can never go back to not being able to do that now. I know I can. You got that confidence. But there is a bit of fear there.
Your fallback plan was if it did fail, and it would never fail for you, and it was never going to fail for me. Yeah, but if it did fail, I could always get back into the industry with another business.
Of course. So talk us through those early days then. Where did you set up? How did you set up? What was the story? Paint the picture.
Yeah, so set up the first office in Manchester. Started. Just me. Yeah. Within 6 weeks, 2 months, hired someone to help me around the admin, the IT, that side of it. But basically set up a database from the Manchester Evening News, put it on an Excel spreadsheet, build it from there, and then slowly grew. I went some friends and ex-colleagues came to join me. So within about 6 to 9 months, there was 3 or 4 of us.
And what was the market you focused on early on? Did you keep it quite specific?
So yeah, it was really specific. So it was. I wanted to build an interim and temporary contract market. So I wanted to build a recurring revenue.
Yeah.
So over the month, we'd build our temps or build our interims, and it was a really good model to and it's turned out to be really successful because each month you get a recurring income rather than perm. Can be a little bit up and down, as we all know. So did that.
What type of contractors are? Was it like finance or accounting or something?
Yeah, so we're placing basically part qualified and qualified accountants into industry, but then we moved into public sector. Then after 9-10 months, set up the second office in Newcastle.
Why?
Because I went to university in Newcastle and I knew there was a real market there.
Could you not service it? You couldn't service it from Manchester, no?
Well, we did initially. I had a business in Darlington that followed me when I set up.
Yeah.
So that was a real success. But having gone up there and being to university there weren't that many agencies. There was a real opportunity. So within 9 months, we had 2 offices. And the thing, Sean, about Sellick Partnership or myself, I didn't want it to be lifestyle. I wanted to build a brand. And so it was always in my plan to have multiple offices.
When you put your name on it as well, like you put your own name on the business, you like
exactly.
I think it's different. I obviously I didn't do that. Voxel's a made up word. We worked for a firm called Venquis, which was a made up word,
right?
And I liked it. I liked when you put it into Google, it was the top of the tree, and there was no comparison. And so Voxel was like the 900th word we came up with that we stuck with. And people always used to think we were in Hoxton in Shoreditch, which we weren't. We were actually in Bow in East London, which was a lot worse than Hoxton. But it was one of them things where you put your name on it, and I think it's quite ballsy to put your name on it because it's like I am the business. And
exactly. And I did that for a purpose that if things went wrong, which the majority of the time they haven't, it was my name on the door.
Yeah.
I was there to be contacted. And the thing about the in terms of partnership, where does that come from? Sellick Partnership. I wanted the business to be a partnership between employees, so the employees in the business, our clients, and our candidates, and it's worked out really well.
Back in 2002, then when you started off, I think that was similar time to LinkedIn launching, wasn't it? Or before. So what was the actual job like back then? Just for people that are listening that perhaps haven't worked in recruitment that long, what were you doing that was on a daily basis back then to do the job?
Yeah, so people talk about recruitment all the time in terms of, is it glamorous? It's not that glamorous. It's about making relationships. So literally in 2002 to 2003, when I was building our database, building our relationships, I'm sat in a small office in the centre of Manchester on the phone 24/7, introducing the business, introducing myself, sending out some marketing collateral, using my diary really effectively, going to meet people, but really thinking about the relationships that I was trying to create and maximizing businesses where I knew there was opportunity, and being really commercial in my decision making, because there's only so many hours in the day. And if there were opportunities and I knew there were firms recruiting, it would be spending time in tracking those guys down, going to see them, and that side of it.
So back then as well, which probably drove the need for a second office, is obviously things were different. There was no video conferencing. There was no social media. It was all about phone calls, face-to-face meetings. Yes. I imagine you tried to get in front of your candidates and your clients back then. Like even when 100%. I started in 2011 in Australia, and every candidate process was to get them in, register with a piece of paper. And, you had to register your candidates and prove to your boss that how many you registered in a week. And I think to myself now, like, that would never happen now. Like,
I've got a colleague that would experience who worked in Australia at the similar time that you were there, and she would tell the same story that the culture of the firm was to meet people, get them in, understand who they are, what their skill set was, and get them out the door.
I loved it though. I loved that face-to-face element. That I think.
Well, you learn from people, don't you? That's the thing. And I used to love interviewing people all the time because, right at the beginning, if I didn't know what they do, I would ask them. People love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know a technical thing about an accrual or a prepayment or what a management account does or what a financial controller does, I'd ask them, I'd learn, and I could sell that back in the future. Really obvious thing to do, but people forget that.
True.
You're information gathering the whole time.
So a year in, let's go to end of year one, if you can remember. You've got 2 offices.
Yeah.
How many people you got by then? About 5 or 6?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe, I don't know, 10-ish, something like that.
And how did the business perform? Can you remember what sort of revenue you generated?
Yeah, so year one, we did $1 million turnover.
What was that in net fee income?
Yeah. So we got off to a real good start. And that gave myself the confidence to look at really wanting to grow the business beyond 2 offices. But it was still very, really hands-on. It was all about meeting people. I can't say it enough. Is getting the name out there, going to see your clients, getting in the car, getting up in the morning. I'd get up at stupid hours and go and see people, have a meeting before 8 o'clock. Get back into the office and start your day.
What was your life like back then? Like in terms of outside of work, were you in a relationship? Did you have any family to think about? What commitments did you have?
Yeah, so I got married at 34. So I had 2 years before 2 years setting up the business and developing the business before I got married. Didn't have any kids.
That's made life a bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it made it a bit easier. Borrowed my girlfriend's car to get round. Do you know what it was? I loved it. It was really exciting. I knew, once I got into it, 18 months, 2 years into it, I knew I was growing something which became tangible and I could monetize it.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to update you on what it is I actually do all day, apart from the RAG podcast, of course. Now, most of you know from the episodes that I am the founder of Voxel, right? What you probably don't know is that we're currently working with over 250 recruitment agencies and over 4,000 of their recruiters around the world in every continent, and helping these businesses brand themselves and the people in the company better. Now, we have built a creative team over the last 6 years that helps manage the creation of new agency brands. Obviously, a lot of the listeners in the RAG are starting their businesses for the first time. But more often than not, we rebrand tired companies. So many businesses we work with are smashing it when it comes to revenue and performance, but their website and their online story was built back when they started for like 500 quid, and it just does not represent who they are today. So we believe getting that right building a brand becomes your anchor. Now, every good brand also needs traffic, right? You need people to see it, to come to the website, see you online, and that's where your people come in. So we work to either manage the personal brands of your team, or we can teach you how to build the brand yourselves. All of it is designed to give you consistency on LinkedIn that helps you stand out from the competition, show your personality, show and add value, and ultimately make more money. Now, I personally speak to potential new customers along with my business partner, Amma. So I would love to spend some time with you, my RAG listeners that I potentially don't even know yet. Any of you that are interested in building a brand that's fit for purpose in 2023 and beyond, come and speak to us. Just click the link in the show notes, fill in the form, and we will be in touch with you within 48 hours to book a 30 minutes video call ASAP. Right, back to the show. Yeah. What one thing that obviously that you're probably aware of this, right? I think it's the stats always waver between about 79 and 81% of recruitment firms don't pass 10 staff. They don't actually get beyond.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, they don't pass 10 staff, and they don't get beyond $1 million turnover. So, right. You're in that like less than 20% that do, and then there's only 250 firms.
Yeah.
That I think break 100 staff or something like that. So it's a really small, and this is UK numbers. It's a really small amount of businesses that get to where you've got to. Yeah. In the early days, then, because your name's on the door, you're clearly a
Yes.
great salesman. You're out meeting everyone. How did you manage to build through other people and not make it the Joe show where it's all about you? And I meet loads of owners where it's all about them and they've got a glorified resourcing team that just fill jobs for them, but they can't scale because it's all about them. What was it like for you?
I think that's a really good question. I think one of I've got some really good talents, a few weaknesses, like all of us. But I soon realised that as a business owner, you can't do everything. So I soon realised, and delegation is a really important part of business, but also understanding what your weaknesses are and surrounding yourself with good people. And that is a real talent. If you can identify good people, whether it's marketing, whether it's within your finance function, whether it's employees that are selling with you, it's identifying really good people and having the confidence to say, actually, I can't do this. I need to give it to someone else to do, and recruit really well. And what we did once I got into business 3 or 4 years into the organization, I'm recruiting people that I may have worked with, that I've known for 2 or 3 years, that have wanted to come and join me, that we could then begin to scale it and move the organization into a brand rather than just like I said right at the beginning, not a lifestyle organization. Move it into where we could have multiple offices and rather having 10 employees, 25, 30 employees, and then you've got something that you can grow. But it's all about empowering people, being empathetic, and giving people opportunities.
Is there a period though where you go from you're producing a lot of the revenue, and you've got to expect a slight dip or a plateau because you're letting others come through and you're passing work on, and you're not necessarily making it about you, because you can jump back on the tools whenever you want. You can pick up the phone, you can go out to meet, you can do deals, but the business doesn't grow when you focus on that.
Yeah, and I think that I've always had this, the easy part of recruitment is actually placing people. The tougher side of running the business is running it, is recruiting people into your organization. You might have credit control issues, you might have payroll issues, all that side of it. The easy part is actually picking up the phone and finding a job and placing it and interviewing a candidate. The tougher side of running your own business is the people side of it.
Yeah.
That's a real challenge.
So how did you transition? And what point was it when you remember starting that process?
Yeah, I think I still do it. Culturally at Sellick, all the directors have always billed. So I've come in this morning into our Liverpool office. I've sent 2 jobs to people around the business. One to my colleague in Manchester, one to my colleague in Newcastle. I still get those calls. I still get those introductions. I think that I'm still quite grounded, and I think why Sellick culture has worked really well is that if employees, if you've been with the business 5 minutes and you see directors that have been with the business 18 years or 20 years, and they're still on the phone speaking to clients or interviewing candidates, that culture is really powerful. And they see that there's no glass, there's no ivory towers at Sellick. We have very open plan offices. There's no hidden rooms or anything like that. We're really open and transparent, and that really works culturally.
Right.
Because if I'm 2 minutes in and I see Jo Sellick on the phone speaking to a candidate, I think that's really powerful.
So it wasn't about you completely stepping away and giving it all away. It was about
it's about taking people with me on a journey, and it's about educating people. It's about developing people's careers, putting a career structure in place. The other thing about the business, we've got really good longevity. I've had people with me for 15, 17, 19 years. They're still here. It's really powerful, and we can sell that to people that are coming into the industry now. That we have got a really good culture. It's thriving. For example, tomorrow is Employee Appreciation Day across the UK. So we're giving everyone the day off, a free day off tomorrow to go and do their own thing. Yeah, and so we've had some really good press across the north over the last 24, 48 hours about Sellick doing Employee Appreciation Day. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Really powerful, because you're giving something back there. And people, I've had a million emails and a million calls saying, we can't believe you've done that, Joe. We're so grateful. But, you look at the thing about recruitment business or general businesses, it's about looking after employees, because they're the lifeblood of the business.
Yeah, 100%. So you mentioned a few things there. You've had people with you 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to? How do you keep someone involved and happy and motivated for that long? I mean, I've not even been working for that long, so I don't know. I couldn't answer that question myself.
Yeah, I think it's about not overcomplicating things. I think it's about if you've made a promise or you've decided to do something, is stick with it. It's not change the goalposts. With a commission structure, make it really simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Make it a fun. Make the culture fun. You spend so much time at work. Make it a nice place to be. We do after year 3, year 4, we introduced a team building weekend. So we all go away for 2 or 3 days each year. You've just got to keep it fresh and keep it inspiring and keep it enjoyable. Because otherwise, the recruitment is so competitive. There's a million places that employees could go and work, and I could never get my head around the fact that we would often maybe hire people that weren't happy from other organisations or other cultures, and the management team has pissed these people off by not maybe paying for their qualifications or not maybe. Letting them go to the doctors when they need to go to the doctors, or those small things, and those small things are really important. And it's not, like I said a minute ago, it's not overcomplicating it. It's keeping a culture which is natural and which is really transparent.
And you've been in that culture from day one, driving it. So you're still there. You're still up in the morning. You're still turning up. You're still, and that's
powerful, isn't it?
That's really powerful. Yeah.
Really powerful. And I think the other thing is, sorry, mate, I interrupt you there, is about put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
If you get asked a question, just think about that. And if I was them, how would I want myself to respond?
Yeah. So if we skip, say, into the business 5-10 years in, it don't need to be a specific time point.
Yeah.
How did your life evolve? Because again, you started at 34. You weren't married.
Yeah, no.
You didn't have any responsibilities. You're running around like
like
you can do it though. I was the same. I was 30 when I started my business. I wasn't married. I just bought a property, but I didn't have any kids or anything to deal with.
Yeah.
My life is very different now. I'm married. I've got 2 stepkids. I've got 2 dogs. I've got more. I've got responsibilities coming out of every angle.
Yeah.
But I still managed to get my stuff done. How did your life evolve over that, say, 10 year from 34 to 44 outside of work?
Yeah, so that's getting married. I've now got 4 kids. Wow. I've always played rugby, so I'm playing rugby each weekend. I'm doing all that side of it, so I'm really enjoying my weekends. I'm going out, I'm going about. But I think it's also at the core level, it's constantly thinking about the business. I'm 24/7 thinking about it. But I can at the weekends. I'm able to remove myself from it. And this is the time that you're talking about, 5-10 years in. I'm growing the business. We're hiring. We're looking at new offices. We're beginning to get a brand going. So I can at the weekends. I can shut off. But during the week, I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm really immersed into my business. I'm thinking about the name. I'm thinking about what we can do next. I'm thinking about the relationships. I'm constantly trying to evolve and trying to make it better. And going back to the culture of my business, any business, is super, super critical. If you get your culture right, you're halfway there.
Yeah. In terms of being a father to kids while you're trying to run a business as aggressively as you were, and how did you balance that? And did you get it right, do you think?
My youngest is 7. Did I get it right? I think so. We've done a few nice holidays. I think they're nice kids, but there's probably times and occasions where I wasn't there when I should have been there.
You up and out their house early every day and coming back late.
Yeah. So I'm usually on the road by 6:37 if that's going into the head office in Manchester or out and about. I've not done too many parents' evenings. They're all, but as you know, they've all been online of late. So that's helped.
Your wife stepped in and did that job, right? She took over and managed.
Yeah. So I met my wife at Baynott and Clark. Then she came and set up the legal side of our brand with a colleague of mine. So she's not been in the business for the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, you know, the thing about family is trying to dovetail the two, and you'll know that it's challenging. And you know, some days the family will become second because, you know, I need to go and see this client or see this candidate, and that would at the beginning that would take priority.
Do you think your wife being in recruitment helped that? She'd understand, because like my wife runs a beauty salon and it's completely different, right? So she does have her own business effectively, so she does understand the commitment to the cause, but I don't think she quite understands how and why I do things the way I do it sometimes. Whereas if she'd have worked in my business like yours, she'd have a real appreciation for what you're doing, right?
Yeah, this definitely helped. There's that challenge then when to not bring everything from work back into home. And, you know, you keep talking about it because you do need to put some blue water between it. But yeah, some of those big key decisions. Yeah, I'll always have those conversations with her because she was a better saleswoman than me, but a real good closer. But yeah, I'll definitely have those conversations.
What from what I've got so far from the outset is it seems like it's gone really well, right? It's been a positive experience. You've got a great business. What could you go back to some times where it wasn't so well? And
I can.
You know, because that's what we want to. We know it's not as smooth as just pick up the phone, start a firm, and everyone's happy.
So we're traveling along really well. We've got some really good energy. We get to 2007, 2008. We think we're going to take over the world.
Yeah.
So at that stage, I think we've got maybe 9 offices.
Wow.
We've got an office in Belfast. We've got offices in Preston, Chester. And the others that we currently have at the moment. So I think we peaked at maybe 9 offices.
How many staff at that point then?
Yeah, I think we've got maybe, and this is after 6, 7, 8 years. We must have had like 80, 90. Right. And then 2008, the credit crunch, the financial crisis, literally overnight things become really, really tough.
Yep.
So I'll give you one example. So our office in Belfast had been really successful. I'd love going to Belfast because I have family there. So love going over there, and we were into a really good market and we were doing really well. We had a team of maybe 14, 15 doing really well. The thing about the Belfast market, it was built around property and banking. And as soon as the banks couldn't lend to property, it was like turning a tap off. So over the period of about 12 to 18 months, we tried to keep our Belfast office open, and we burnt a load of cash trying to keep it open because I was emotionally attached to it. I had family there. I loved going there, but we were losing money, big amounts of money month to month. And it was just
how long did that run for before you had to make it?
Yeah, you know, mate, probably 12, 14 months, a long time.
Yeah.
And we were burning lots and lots of money, but I wanted to keep it open, and I couldn't. You know, people were telling me, you need to do something about that, Joe. That's not going to work out. And I kept it open. Finally, made the decision that it was just untenable.
What was the reason why couldn't they turn it around?
It was just the market wasn't there. Yeah. It was literally, Sean, that overnight the market contracted.
Yeah.
And we thought we could sell our way through it, but we couldn't. So at that period of time, we closed our Belfast office, we closed our Chester and Preston offices. We made some redundancies. We had to make some real tough decisions, and we had a period of maybe 18 months, 2 years, and I'm now in sort of 2010, 2011, 2012, where we had a really rocky time.
Yeah.
And I managed to keep generally the senior management team together. And a lot of those people that were with me then are still with me now. So that was about having those honest conversations with people in the company that, we'd made some decisions that were possibly the wrong decisions, but we had to make some other decisions to think about the survival of the business. So we had some really a rocky 18 months, 2 years, but we got through it. And it was about keeping the team together and then thinking about the future. But the good thing about that was it was the first real time in my career, having run the business, where we'd made some mistakes, and it was then taking those learns and moving it forward and thinking about those learns.
And did you shrink headcount at that point then?
Yeah. We probably came from 80 or 90 down to maybe 45, 50, and really contracted the business, and then thought about our markets. And once we traded our way through, it was then beginning to think about growing. But for 18 months, 2 years, it was touch and go. We had a tough recession. We had a really tough recession, but we got through.
Again, those people are not just numbers either. They're human beings with mortgages and families and kids, and you've got to,
Exactly.
Letting them go. People don't really think about that, but it's a horrible situation to have to go through that as a business.
Yeah, and going back to what you said 20 minutes ago about having my name on the door, when we closed these offices, it was me that went to Belfast, it was me that went to Chester, me went to Preston, and had these tough conversations with people, and to say, we're in an environment where we might have to make redundancies and all that side of it. But I didn't want to devolve that to anyone else. I wanted to do that myself, because I'd hired them, and I felt the only honourable thing to do was for me to make those to have those conversations with them.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think I got a bit of respect out of that.
Yeah,
rather than someone else doing it.
I remember I came back I went out to Australia, got in recruitment, joined a firm in London in the middle of the Olympics in 2012, and it was just at the time where the market was starting to recover. I was in the insurance. I was working in the insurance market, recruitment. So, financial services, we had I think the whole time I was doing that till 2017, the market was great.
Booming.
So then you come out of that recession, you grow again.
Yeah.
We've probably got how many years? 7-8 years until COVID hit.
So you're in Australia at this point.
So I came back to London in 2012.
Yeah.
And then I worked for 5 years for a firm, and then I started my own business in 2017, right?
Nice.
So I'm looking at your life and thinking, you've come out of the recession, the credit crunch. You've probably got 7-8 years until the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
But then you're going into, talk us through the pandemic for you, because you're a physical business. You're all in the office.
Yeah.
You're working you got that high energy, wake up every morning, you're all together.
Yeah.
Then the world changes. Like my business was actually quite different. But talk us through what it was like for you in early 2020, 3 years ago, which is bonkers.
It is bonkers. And listening to the news this morning when I was driving over to Liverpool, they were talking about the pandemic with all the Daily Telegraph news that's coming out at the moment, with all the WhatsApps between Hancock and all his colleagues. So we kind of, if thinking back to November, December 19, where all this stuff's coming out of China, and there's a pandemic, and it's growing, and then it gets to Europe, and it hammers Italy, then it's gone to Spain and France, and where I think the UK has gone wrong is that the 25-mile channel wasn't going to stop the pandemic, and it had been seeded in the UK. So our major decision was to buy a load of laptops. Yeah. In January.
You didn't even have, your business wasn't even laptop friendly in early 2020.
Well, we had laptops. We had laptops in the business, but we had to buy a load more because I guess it was dawning on us that something was going to happen, and if there was going to be, if we needed to be more agile and more, if we were going to have to do things at other places rather than the office, then we needed to get our act together. We'd also made a good decision that we bought some software where we could have video conferencing and all that side of it.
Yeah.
So we got our timing right in terms of the technology and the laptop side of things. And then on Johnson on the Friday says,
Friday the 13th, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're all going to be at home, and within I don't know 3 or 4 days we'd got ourselves up and running. The first lockdown was absolutely horrendous for the Sellick household. So if you can picture 4 kids, you've got one at 4, one at 7 or 8. It was a complete nightmare. Yeah. The other 2 were not. So I got 2 girls, a lad Ted, who's the middle one, and then the youngest one, Mabel. So it was a real tough learn. So I'm trying to have meetings over Zoom or Ring Central, whatever it is. I've got kids everywhere. We're trying to do learning with them. Horrendous. Yeah. But like everyone, we all got through.
Were you going into that pandemic like still 5 days a week, all in the office, including you? Were you in everything? Because I spoke to a couple of people who were. I interviewed a guy on this podcast in person in London, as it used to be, just before the pandemic, and he was about to sell the business. Okay. He was removed from everything, and then he gets shot back in, and he's the guy. He's buying laptops, 300 staff, and he's gone from
back in the thick of it.
He's gone from literally like planning his boat trips to being literally sinking in the boat, trying to get people back on the phone. It was literally. What was it like? What was the transition like for you? Was it quite?
Yeah, it was. So again, going back to this, we've got a really strong senior management team. Everyone is fairly clued up. Everyone embraces what's happening. We very quickly get into a culture of Zoom or Teams meetings first thing in the morning, and then one after lunch. We've tried to do cultural stuff by keeping people all together. We're sending out a lot of information in terms of advising people about changes with the COVID laws. I don't know if remember if you think back, Sean, that they were literally saying stuff every hour on the hour, weren't they? Yeah. And they were and we were trying to interpret what we were meant to do, and it was horrendous. But somehow, looking back, we all got through. So I'll give you some numbers. We all get sent home in March. Our numbers then bottom in June, because we think the world's going to stop closing, no one's hiring, all that side of it. By October, November, the same year, so 2020, we're hitting best evers.
Yeah, and the market went bonkers, didn't it?
The market went bonkers. The turnaround was crazy. From June to bottoming out, we then 4 months later, 3 months later, we're hitting best evers across a load of our teams.
What did that do for you personally? Again,
from a confidence perspective, it was inspiring.
What about though? Because I imagine in the business you ran, it was face to face in the office 5 days a week. Suddenly, you've got guys that you're not seeing all day, and they're performing, and the business. Yeah. Did it genuinely make you think differently about the way the business ran?
Yeah, totally. I really struggled with it. I really struggled because I don't. Prior to the pandemic, on the odd occasion I'd work from home, but I don't like working from home. I want to. I want to be in the office. I want to be meeting people, seeing people, asking them about their markets. Where they're making money, where they're not making money, all that side of it. So I really struggle with it. And on 2 or 3 occasions would go out and about, and actually had colleagues phone me up saying, "Joe, you can't do that. You might get arrested. You might get pulled over by the police." But I couldn't help it. I just needed to go and do things. And then I started to then think about, as we got to the summer, when the government was going to let us back into the offices, I had to get all the offices COVID compliant. So that then became my job, to go to the offices, to go and figure out, same direction of people walking around the offices, and sanitizers everywhere, and arrows going left, right, and center, and all that side of it. But I was quite pleased to do that, actually, because it gave me some focus, and it gave me some the fact that we're going to go back into offices. It gave me a bit of some good things to look forward to. But I really struggle with it.
Here's a message from our newest sponsor in 2023, the Recruit Hub. Are you thinking about starting a recruitment business in the UK or the USA? If you've thought about it, if you've got any desire to start a recruitment business in the future, or you might have just started up and you think, am I doing it right? Then you can download a startup blueprint and access key information. Information relating to funding. How much money do you actually need and what are your options? Knowing where you stand. What is your non-compete and do you have any restrictions you really need to consider? Do you need a co-founder? What do you need to know about going alone, going with someone else? How to automate your way to billing faster. Business planning basics, things like what is a business plan and how do you write one? And then how do you come up with a name and build a brand? Now, if you are interested in taking this document, our newest sponsor are giving it away for free. They are called Recruit Hub, and you can get it at recruit-hub.com/startup-blueprint. The link to this message is in the show notes. So go away, get that free information, and see if you're capable of starting a new business or the business you've just started, is it set up for success? Let me know. And then since then, obviously April 21, when we came out of the last lockdown, I remember it really well. What
is this when Sunak did his stay out to eat out or whatever it was?
So that was actually in the summer of 2020. That was like July, August 2020.
Okay.
And then we had a period where everyone was going back in the office. And then if you remember, October, November 2020, we went back into lockdown and we stayed in it.
Right.
We stayed because remember, I was living back in Manchester and Andy Burnham was fighting about Zone 4 and Liverpool.
Yeah, that's right.
We got put in a zone that Liverpool didn't, and it was on the move. And then by April, I remember I went down to London we could go out for a beer with the team, and we're all sat outside. It was freezing in April. It was bonkers.
That's right.
Like -2 or something. And when we were outside drinking, and it felt like the world was about to, and after that, it's been back to normal. How was your business from an operational perspective evolved as you were able to go back to the previous? Did you keep some of the processes? Have you evolved it back out? What's it moved into?
So where we are now is we're all at home for a period of, I don't know, 6 months, first lockdown, whatever it was. So then we get back to the offices. Then as you described a minute ago, then we get sent home again. So when we finally get back in, we're now having a debate around because we've been quite successful at home.
Yeah.
So then you've got generally a culture from a business perspective. You've got big companies allowing people to spend 1 day at home, 2 days at home, full home working, or hybrid, whatever it is. So we get into a big debate from a board perspective and a senior management perspective as to how we're going to accommodate people's requests.
Yeah.
So we have a debate, a discussion over about 6 weeks, and the majority of this is over Zoom or Teams, is to finally come to a conclusion because we needed to. Because we're going back to our success, we had to, I think, be honourable to people that had been successful, who were giving us, who were asking us, well, can we spend a day at home week or 2 days or whatever? Anyway, long story short, we came to a conclusion where we did a 3 and 2.
Yeah.
So we did a 3 and 2 split. However, if you wanted to do 5 days in the office, you can.
Yeah.
But 3 of those days were in the office, and Monday being mandatory.
Yeah.
And then the teams have evolved and developed in whichever direction or however they want to accommodate their own.
Are you still running that now? Because I've heard a lot of businesses are moving more to 4 and 1 now. It's becoming more. It's going backward to the early days.
Yeah, we're still doing 3 and 2, but people are. We always embrace this word choice.
Yeah.
That if people wanted to do 5 days, they could do it, and it's worked for us actually. Because I think that the choice that we gave and the empowerment that we gave, people have naturally come back to the offices. Because the thing about recruitment is it's about learning. It's about being with other people. It's a sales environment. There's only so much of that stuff you can do at home. Yeah. And particularly if you're trying to bring new people into the organization, you just can't do that over Teams, or you can't do that over Zoom. You need to be physically with an individual, sat next to them, training and developing them and taking their careers forward.
I think that, we've had this debate on so many episodes. It's that creative
bit, isn't it?
The argument around, a rookie coming in at 21 needs to be in a room with older, more experienced people to learn. But then the people in their 30s that have got kids are perhaps more comfortable and enjoying the fact that they can do 2 or 3 days at home.
Yeah.
So it's trying to please both camps, because
it's getting that balance.
Yeah, it's
really
and
that is, if you think it is achievable, if you've got the right management team in place who are able to, who want to embrace other new people coming to the organization, they know they're going to have to spend a bit more time in the office to develop their careers. But as that person comes through, then they may spend a little bit more time at home. So it's just about, it's not broad brushing it. It's treating each case individually. And I think going back to the culture, that's why the Sellick culture has been successful, because we're not broad brushing it. We're taking each case individually and coming up with a decision.
I've got a few more questions, and one on what has being a business owner for the period of time, 20 years, what has it given to you? What would you say you've taken from being at the helm of a business that's grown and done what it's done for 20 years?
Okay, it's given me an income. It's given me things that I might not have been able to have done, that I have been able to have done with just being an employee. It's given me inspiration. It's allowed me to grow a business, which I think, you know, it's a big thing to grow a brand, to have 100 employees, but it's never been all about me. It's been about taking people on a journey, and I think that's really testament to the longevity that I do have with people in the company. Yeah. And it's like I use this word a bit. It's being transparent, putting yourself in their position, and giving people opportunity.
Yeah.
And being honest.
And I think fulfillment is a word that I would use for myself. Like, you know, I feel fulfilled running my firm. I think it keeps me occupied mentally in a way that I perhaps wouldn't.
I bet you love it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. Like, I genuinely think about it for, like, in the morning, at night. It's
constantly.
And I love it, but I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing, right?
The cut and thrust of it. You get absorbed by it, don't you? It just takes you over in a good, positive way.
In a good way, yeah. In a good way.
Yeah. But also there, you know, as we talked about 10 minutes ago, you have to make decisions which are decisions that you don't want to make, but for the success of the business, you've got to make them. As directors of a business, your sole priority is to the organization.
Yeah, 100%. Now, right now, you're going through. You are open with me that there's an event process going on. So you're now at 20 years. Talk us through what is going on. What's your plan? Where are you heading? Yeah. Where's the business heading?
So in 2019, 70% of Sellick was bought by a French business called Samsic.
Oh wow!
So they're a 3.2 million to 3.2 billion turnover French business out of Rennes in Brittany.
Recruitment business.
Yeah, so they're 80% facilities management,
right?
20% recruitment. So the facilities management side of it, they're looking after airports, offices, railway stations, doing all the cleaning, all that side of it, and loads of other stuff. The recruitment side of it is 20%. So they have other recruitment businesses other than the UK and Italy, in Belgium, obviously in France. Other countries around Europe, and so we sold 70% to them in 2019.
How did that happen? Like, how did that come about? Because that's an interest. I've never heard anyone be bought by like a French company. That like it's quite a different story. That
so we went to the market. Myself and my fellow directors, we wanted to after 19 years, we wanted to see some value in terms of all our hard work.
Yeah.
But the other major side of it is we wanted to find an organization that wanted to grow with us and invest in us and take the brand further forward. So our turnover in 2019 was around about 45 mil. Year that just finished, 2022, our audited accounts will be 95 million. So they've helped us grow rapidly in 4 years. They're great guys. They're family owned. they've allowed us to they don't want to run Sellick Partnership. They've allowed us to run it in the way we've wanted and grow it in the way we wanted. So the relationship has been really strong. Prior to them actually buying us, we turned down 2 offers. And I thought about this when I was driving over to have the podcast. That was one of the most important decisions, is turning down offers, because we knew what we didn't want, which then actually affected in terms of what we did want. Yeah. So actually turning these other organizations down was, again, really powerful.
What were they? What was, you don't have to go into detail, obviously, but what was on the table that put you off? Like,
the price was wrong.
Right.
Number one, the price was wrong. But it just the one of the organisations was just didn't feel right from a cultural perspective, and the other one was PE backed.
Right.
So we didn't want to get into bed with a private equity. We'd much rather wanted to get involved in maybe continental Europe or Japan or the States, and our decision has turned out to be the right decision. So to elude what you were speaking about, I've got an event coming up in the future, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with my French colleagues, and maybe long may that continue.
So you will have a decision at some point whether you want to stay around and keep going, or you could.
Yeah, I've got a decision to make. I suspect I will stay around. I really get on with these French guys really well. They get on with me really well, and we've had a relationship which has been really open and transparent. And like I said, long may it continue.
2 things that come to my mind just off the back of that. Number one is 2019 was just before the pandemic, right? So yes, timing wise must have been interesting, because I bet those French guys were a bit like, oh shit, we bought you. And like you said, the bottom down of your cost and your market till June that year. Was there some panic there on there? Was there any issues that
Well, I think they were going through the same, France got hit hard sooner than we did, so they were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit. Right. So we were all in it together, and I think it was there was a period for 2 or 3 months where we all thought the world was going to stop turning, didn't we?
Yeah.
We just didn't know where we were going to be, or what was going to happen. So we were all, like I said, we're all in it together. We're having Zoom calls, we're having Teams calls, all that side of it. And it was, I think it was just a case of getting through. And we were doing budgets.
Have you added any extra pressure though? The fact that you now had the commitment to another organization.
A little bit, but they were really open with us that they knew that our 220 budget wasn't going to be how it was outlined in 2019. But actually, at the end of the year, I think we ended up beating it. Yeah, because as we talked about, the market came back really quickly. But I think the reason that our relationship with Samsic has worked so well is we were all in it together, and we all had to come out of it together, and so there was a bit of added pressure, but we got through.
One thing I always want to know about from entrepreneurs that do realize that whether they sell the whole business or they sell a percentage and they realize some wealth creation off the back of it, how did it actually feel when that went through for you? Can you take us back to where you were when that deal was done and what the emotions were like?
Yeah, so myself and my 2 colleagues, 2 equity directors, we'd had 6-8 meetings with Samsic. We knew where they were right. We did the deal. We actually finally did the deal at Man City Stadium, because these French guys, they're really sporty. Yeah. And so we were mirroring. Once we got to know them, it's a bit like dating. Yeah. Once we got to know them and what they're into, and they're all into their football. They sponsor. They have a cycling team. They also sponsor Rennes, the French Division 1 team, and I think they sponsor the Shorts of Lyon, the rugby team. So they're really into the sport. Anyway, so. I would have rather done our deal at Old Trafford, but
they obviously appreciate good football, right?
Well, it wasn't
the sporty guys. They've got a brain in their head. They know where they're going.
I phoned Old Trafford up because I wanted to hire one of the directors' boxes to look over the pitch to do the final meeting, but I couldn't. Old Trafford wouldn't organise it, so I thought, you know what? There's one other team in Manchester. I'll give them a call. So they were a lot more hospitable.
Yeah.
So we got a box right over the halfway line.
Wow.
It was a February day, and we'd been in there all day. And there had a really nice moment where we'd shaken hands on the deal, and we knew we were going to do it. And I bought all the French guys City shirts and all that side of it. And as we came out of the room and we were getting the lifts down to the car park to leave, Manchester looked really amazing. There was a nice sunset, and you could see all the cranes and the wealth of Manchester. And it was just a really nice vision for me that I've kept in my head since then. And it was a buzz. Yeah, it was a really buzz to create something from 2000 when I first started the business to 2019, and from nothing to having sold it. And I've got goosebumps thinking about it because I'd been the figurehead and leader of it. But like I say, I couldn't have done it without the great team behind me, and we realized something through all our hard work.
But it doesn't sound like that cash injection in your personal life and that it's not burnt your fire out. It doesn't sound, I don't get the vibe like you're ready to go and play golf or rugby.
No, I'm not a golfer. No, it hasn't. And I've been fortunate enough to make money through the deal. I don't think about that at all. No. What I do think about is the 30% that I have left in the business is growing that and trying to take that side of it forward. So yeah, I think people will say this about me. I haven't changed that much. Yeah. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I love it. It's a great industry. Anyone out there that sees this, that's looking for a career or looking to get into something which is fun and you can have a great life, think about recruitment.
Well, everyone listening are in the industry pretty much already, right? It's the majority of our listeners are founders or aspiring founders that they want to go on a journey like you. So, if there are people listening outside of recruitment who want to get in, I mean, obviously, but there's people sat there, billers, looking at me in 2016. The reason I started this show is because in 2016, I'm a top biller, come manager, thinking about starting my own business with no resources to lean on. Yeah. And, I couldn't even speak to the people I work for because they were my bosses. Yeah. So,
you got to do it privately.
There was a gap. There was a real gap. And now, hopefully, we filled that gap because people can listen to people like you. And in an hour, they can gain valuable information. But also, more than information, it's inspiration that this shit is possible for any of us. If we work hard enough, we've got a clear proposition, and we expect it to be a bumpy ride. It won't be all easy, but, the rewards are there to be had.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. If you've got a vision, you've got the energy, you've got the confidence. And I think also you've got to go into if you're going to set up your own business, go into it with your eyes wide open. You can't play with it.
No.
Like you said a minute ago, you've got to totally immerse yourself in it and enjoy it.
Yeah. That's why we do it. Joe, That's been an hour. That's been honestly one of the...
That's whiz by, isn't it?
So much fun. Thank you so much. Thanks for giving us your time today. I know how busy you are. If anyone does want to reach out to you off the back,
absolutely.
If there's a recruiter there or an owner that just wants to check in with you and ask some questions, just drop you. Is LinkedIn the best place, or would it be an email?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Jump on my website. I think my details are on there. Yeah. I'm really accessible. If someone wants to find me, they'll find me.
Wicked. Yeah. Joe, have a wonderful day. Thanks so much. We'll get you back on again in the future, I'm sure, and we'll see how much you've evolved and what's happened in the next couple of years.
Sean, I've loved that, and thank you for the invitation. Have a good day.
Pleasure. Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Voxel Media. I am the CEO and founder of Voxel Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.